where we can have it recorded, where the microphone?
Are we here for the passing of that, or has it already been passed?
This is an ordinance for public citizens' comments on the property at 7355 Overby Road. It's for public comments about the passage. Yes, ma'am.
My question was going to be, what type of information have they found out about a sewer system for there? Because I know earlier we discussed one that was not going to work because of the creeks and different things there. And so I just wanted to know, what have they come up with about the sewer? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hubner?
Mayor, I believe Mr. Bianca could answer that better than I can, because I think he's more familiar with that.
Okay, Mr. Beata, would you like to speak to the question at hand?
Sure.
Thank you.
The original sewer proposed is one that Water Authority of Dixon recommended, and it is approved system that they will take over and manage. It is federally mandated, just like a standard centralized system. It will have no impact on creeks. So there was never a change in the sewer. It was always a step system. I do have, there is more information on a website that I put up to help answer these questions. The website is westviewtn.com, and I actually posted the engineer's report on that. It's about a 60-page report, and it goes into better detail than I could at this time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments this evening on the property?
So what he's saying is they still have the same type of sewer that they proposed at the last meeting we came to, or when we all came here the first time and they gave the plan. That is still the same type of sewer that they're recommending now for the building, for the subdivision?
From the way I understand is the original step system that was discussed is the same system that he has for this development. Yes.
And this is still like the separate little units that go with every house. The little, what do you call it, Charles? Yeah, the low pressure system thing that they were talking about the first time. This is not individual septic tanks.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
According to his answer.
okay, and this is going to be through
Water Authority of Dixon County.
Dixon, Tennessee.
The
Okay.
WADC. What he stated a moment ago, that it would be maintained by Water Authority of Dixon County. They will manage it, and it's a federal mandated system that he's posted information about the engineering and the makeup of the system.
Okay, who is the person at Dixon Water Authority that heads that all up that we could talk with?
Mr. Hubner, would you address that, please?
That would be Mr. Mike Adams.
Mike?
Mike Adams.
Mike Adams. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening to speak on this property? At this point, I'll ask for an adjournment from the board.
Moved.
Motion second. All in favor? Thank you. Public hearing closed. Good evening. I'd like to open the Board of Commissioners meeting August 17th, 2014 at 7:06. All those who would, please stand for a moment of silence for the loss in our community today. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Will there be any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
Move approve.
Mayor, the police chief has asked that we would add one item. 8G would be to take bids on a 15-passenger used van for discussion and/or action.
Any other additions or deletions? All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item 3 is citizens' comments. We have Mr. Jim Power. Would you please approach the podium? You have 3 minutes to deliver your comments. Welcome.
As I understand that the budget's very tight. I've talked to Mr. Hall about things, and he's told me they've been put on hold. I understand that. But I don't understand in the logic of some of it. Commissioner Sutton, since you've been up here, one of the things you push for is 80 trails in the park. There was one approved by this board, up to $25,000 for an AD trail down to Joanne's classroom. My understanding is that's now on hold. Mr. Johnson, you have expressed a concern on the pine trees in the park, the bugs, the dying off, the fire hazard. This board passed $8,500 for a forester, so we can move ahead with this. My understanding is it is now on hold. We've also, as a group, you wanted to promote the park. $2,000 was appropriated by this board to put signage on 840 to show people to advertise this park and to advertise Fairview. My understanding is that's on hold. Add all these things up, it comes to $35,500. We can buy a new truck that's important for the truck, a must-have, that was voted for months after these things was approved for $35,000. So we've swapped off the health of the park, ADA trails for the disabled, and advertisement for this city for one pickup truck. And I'm very sorry, but that just does not make sense to me. Things that have been issues that people have talked to you about, that have come to this board. People spend a lot of time on some of these forestry projects, all on hold. Now, I'm not saying the park doesn't need a new truck. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is when you're spending money again, you spent money once, you don't have the money, well, let's just put this on hold and do what today's project is. We need to finish what we start before we jump in. You know, we never finish anything. Nothing's finished. And until you vote for something, make sure it gets finished and spend the money that way. It's almost like crackheads. They get out here, they can't get nothing done. And I'm not saying y'all are crackheads, don't say that. I'm just talking about it's just this philosophy. I'm an AA sponsor, so I guess that's what I can relate to. People that just keep doing the same thing and never making any progress. And again, please don't think that I just called the Board of Commissioners a bunch of crackheads. That was, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Item number 4, awards and recognitions. Would there be any from the board this evening? Any from the staff? Item number 5, public announcements.
Just a reminder on the emission testing every Monday and Tuesday from 7:30 till noon. Thank you, Mayor.
Under public announcements, I'll invite all here or anyone watching or listening. We will have an Economic Task Force meeting on the 18th. That's Monday at 6 p.m. It's held here at the City Hall, and it's a regional roundtable, opportunity to bring to the table thoughts, and also we have persons reporting back on things that have happened in the last quarter of the year of 2014 in economic growth in the Fairview area as well as surrounding areas. So everyone's invited. Monday, the 18th, 6 p.m. here at City Hall for the Economic Task Force meeting. Anything else?
Mayor, if I could, just as a reminder to all the citizens out there, tomorrow is the first half day of school.
Yes.
So be very aware the school zone is going to be opening up in tomorrow. The police department, I'm sure, will be very vigilant on making sure the speed limits are adhered to. And just be aware that you're going to see some children out walking, a lot more traffic. So take that in mind and be safe.
Thank you. Item 6 is the approval of the minutes. We have presented this evening the minutes from the July 17th, 2014 public hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 6B is approval of the minutes of the July 17th, 2014 Board of Commissioners meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 7A, old business. It's a second and final reading on Bill 2013-06.
Ordinance number 801 is an ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7355 Overby Road, as shown on the City of Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll, map 46, parcel 44, from RS 40 to RS 15 mixed-use PUD, 108.41 acres. Move for approval.
Second.
First and second, discussion. Is there a person here representing the Beata property? For the record, show that Mr. Beata is present. Any other discussion? Your statement was not understanding what he said. Mr. Beata? Could you read the caption again? It's been said it could not be understood.
Bill number 2013-06, ordinance number 801. The ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7355 Overby Road, as shown on the City of Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll, map 46, parcel 44, from RS 40 to RS 15 mixed-use PUD, 108.41 acres.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7B, discuss and or take action on State of Tennessee contract with the City of Fairview for mowing and litter pickup. Mr. Cantrell?
I have reviewed the contract, Mayor, and it is almost a carbon copy with notable exceptions of the amount paid and the area to be covered. But as far as the contract is concerned, it's a typical state contract. I have no problem with the contract. Whether it's advantageous to the city or not is your call. Because I know there was some discussion last time about the drastic amount cut money-wise from what the city was to do, and I think Mr. Paisley had something on that. But as far as the contract, I have no problem with the contract.
Mr. Paisley, Director of Parks and Director of Public Works, would you like to state your findings?
Well, and this was done, so the price of gas might have gone down a little bit. But for 3 employees, takes 4 hours to mow, weed eat, and do the litter pickup all at once. We checked it out. We used 12 gallons of fuel, which comes to $38.16 per mow, $114.48 for all 3 mows and weed eating. The oil gets changed every 100 hours. The oil comes to about $8.50 for all 3 mows on 2 mowers. That also includes an oil filter. 3 employees' salary is about $573.84 for all 3 mows, weed eat, and litter pickup. That comes to $47.82 an hour. The total per mow is $232.28. That's a mow, weed eat, and litter pickup. The total for all 3 mows, weed eating, and 4 litter pickups comes to $744.66. Contract is for $2,358, which, taking off the $744.66, comes to $1,613.34 in our favor.
Did you include the labor
Yes,
in the 744?
yes.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion second, discussion. In discussion, I would like to ask the difference of what you budgeted as a revenue line item and the 1,600. Did you have that number?
The 16,000.
You
Is that
said
what
you
you're-
budgeted, it was 31,000. You said you budgeted low this year, anticipating it would reduce, and it was 25 or 18. What was the line item of revenue for that?
Tom, you know where it's lined on?
18,000. And there's 1,600 that's going to be true revenue to
Yes.
the city of Fairview. I'd like to amend the motion that this contract and this process not move any farther until the departments, the city manager, and the CFO find the cuts of that difference, because at that point, we're at a negative of a revenue line item. Does not mean that we will not do the cutting, but it does mean that this issue is standing looking at us, that we are moving forward with a deficit at that revenue line item, and I believe fixing it now may be advantageous versus waiting.
Tim, again, what the total cost is going to be?
There's a motion on the floor. Excuse me. Would there be a second for the CFO and the city manager and the department head to look at that revenue line item that we're not receiving as a city of Fairview on the budget before we move forward? Would there be a second for that?
I will second it, Mayor.
Thank you. Discussion? Thank you.
I have 2 comments. The first comment is that I will vote no on the amendment, even though I seconded it, because I think they are 2 separate and distinct issues. I think it is rightfully so, given the parameters that we set forth, that the finance committee be charged with making that adjustment for the $16,000 that we do not now have in the revenue that we had planned for, and come forth when we meet again at the end of the month to tell us where that $16,000 comes from. But I don't think that should affect the approval of the contract. The contract to me is fairly simple and straightforward. The state has decided to cut back on what they'll pay us. This is our front door. We are not going to not cut the grass. So whether they're going to pay us $32,000, whether they're going to pay us $18,000, or whether they're going to pay us $2,700, to not go ahead and sign the contract so we at least get that amount of money doesn't make much sense to me. So I agree in principle that we now need to find out how we're going to pay for that loss of revenue, but I don't think that should hold up the contract, because my understanding is the state is not, there's no negotiation here. We can take the $2,700 or we don't take the $2,700, and we're not going to not cut the median. We're going to have to cut our median, because that's our front door. So that's kind of where I stand on it. If you wanted to withdraw and then make a separate motion about deferring to the finance committee to come forward with a recommendation, I could support that.
Any other discussion? This is two different subjects, and I fully understand that. But to address a subject knowing that we're going into a deficit and not address that is definitely where I wanted to say we've got to take care of that in this process. Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Original motion? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I apologize. I did not make a apology for Miss Commissioner Carroll that is not with us. She asked to apologize to the public. Something came up, and she was not able to be here this evening. Still having a quorum, we'll move on with 7C. Discuss and or take action on vacant board seats. Include those surrendered by Commissioner Sutton. City Manager Hall?
I believe Commissioner Sutton has withdrawn that decision until after the election. Am I correct on that, Commissioner
If I
Sutton?
can, Mayor, yeah. At this time, I know we're having difficulty filling the seats, period. I'm still going to recuse myself from those boards. I felt it more appropriate to do it after the next election, so that the sitting board will have a lot more input into appointing those positions for those seats. So I've asked to stay there. I've withdrawn my request from City Manager Hall.
Are there any other vacant seats at this time that we have to fill? Okay. Applications are always taken. I'll take a moment to say, applications are always taken. They're on the website, fairview-tn.org. They're also able to be picked up at City Hall at any time from City Manager Hall or Ms. Johnson. Those are open and will be reviewed on occasion as seats come available, and you will be notified to see if the interest is still there. But we continually look for volunteer service to be a part of our leadership and the city of Fairview. With no action, we'll move on. 8A, discuss and or take action on bill number 2014-20. Sure.
Ordinance number 842, an ordinance to change the zoning of certain property located in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7062 City Center Way, owned by Karen Dursey, parentheses Lassen, as shown on the Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll Map 42, parcel 173, 1 acre from RS 40 to TCOD/MSMU Town Center Overlay District, Main Street, mixed use, close parentheses.
With due respect, I'll ask to hold the meeting, and at this point, we'll find ourselves in a temporary recess till we have the full board present tonight.
Move to recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Turn your mic on, please, sir. I think that's what he's.
I
Thank
did,
you.
and I turned it off and forgot to turn it back on. I didn't know what that meant.
I didn't either.
It's kind of like people say.
We're in recess, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm stepped out to the bathroom just a minute.
If you leave, then we'll be holding in recess since you are here to represent the property. Sure, we'll just recess. Commissioner Johnson, who has left the bench. We'll just wait, because the person present will have to be present for the vote. Thank you.
We took a recess. John had to go to the bathroom too. He's back. We're back in recess. We're back.
I call the meeting back to order. Thank you for your attention and your patience. What are the wishes of the board of item 8A?
Move to approve.
Motion second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 8B, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-21.
Ordinance number 843 is an ordinance to change the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7061 City Center Way, owned by John A. Harrison, as shown on the Fairview Geological Listing and Assessment Roll, map 42, parcel 172.575 acres from RS 40 to TCOD MSMU. Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Let the record show that Mr. Harrison is here representing the property. Like to say hi to the kids? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item C, discuss and or take action on resolution number 12-14.
It's a resolution to set a public hearing for the purpose of obtaining public comment on the changing of the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7062 City Center Way, owned by Karen Dirksey, as shown on the Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll, map 42, parcel 173, 1 acre from RS 40 to TCOD MSMU. Move for approval.
Second.
First and second, discussion. And Mr. Cantrell is set forth for the public hearing?
Yes, ma'am, that one and the next one, too.
Okay. Any other discussion? We voted, we're done.
We need to vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Item D, discuss and or take action on resolution 13-14.
It's a resolution to set a public hearing for the purpose of obtaining public comment on the changing of the zoning of certain property in the city of Fairview, Tennessee, located at 7061 City Center Way, owned by John A. Harrison, as shown on the Fairview Geological Listing of Assessment Roll, map 42, parcel 172.575 acres from RS 40 to TCOD MSMU. Move for approval.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you again. Item 8E, discuss and or take action on assignment for the Park Board. Commissioner Bissell?
Thank you, Mayor. We seem to spend a lot of time talking about the negatives around our current financial situation. And I'd like to offer what I believe to be a positive in that regard tonight. And that is, I think the coming year, because we will be in a very conservative mode, I believe the coming year gives us a unique opportunity to complete some of these plans that we've talked about a better financial place. We will have a next step already to go, and we won't lose any downtime, because I do believe we are going to be, if not by the end of 6 months, by the end of the year, in a much better fiscal place. I chose to bring forth the park tonight. We've already started by charging the Finance Committee with developing a comprehensive financial document. I brought forth the parks tonight because I believe the Parks Committee has already started on this effort. But I also think that we need to do the same thing with a overall street plan. There wasn't much done with that. I believe the former city manager tasked the former codes director with coming up with a street plan. We saw a map and it kind of died. An automation plan is to, rather than doing our automation efforts ad hoc, and then human resources, which I also know that Tom is beginning to work on, or plans to work on, with Brian Baker. So I'm not saying that these committees aren't doing anything, but I think that just as we have decided with the Finance Committee that we want a finite product on a finite date, I think we should do the same with the other committees. I therefore wish to make the motion that the Park Committee be assigned the task of developing and preparing in final form for submission to the BOC a comprehensive 5 to 10 year plan for the improvement and expansion of our parks and recreation system, and that as a bare minimum, it should include the following: what new services, facilities, or services should we provide, in what order? What would be the complete cost of construction, including land acquisition if needed? Where would that facility or service be located? What are the maintenance costs, staffing, security, additional or specialized equipment to take care of it? How does that integrate into the sidewalk system and the other efforts that are already going on? And of course, not to be left out, how do we pay for this? Do we offer a referendum for a specialized tax increase? Do we dedicate a certain number of revenues toward it, a percentage, whatever they come up with? And then the last part is, how does this fit with what the county provides us? The rec center, the library, those type things. How do we look at that? Should we be, are there other opportunities that we could work with the county to partner, or should we be moving to take over all those services and do them ourselves? I would like to see this submitted to us by March the 1st, 2015, and I really would like for this, while it needs to be vetted with the appropriate city staff, I really would like that it be the ideas of the members of the committee, because that, to me, that's what we're trying to get. What does the public want? The number of people that answered our survey points us in a direction, but I think Mr. Power said this, and I agree with him, that 300 people or 350 people is not a sufficient amount of folks to actually make decisions about. I think the committee has got to give us that recommendation. And then I listed on the document that I shared with my fellow commissioners and mayor all the things that I had made notes of over the years, and I'll just read them out, but they are not part of the motion, Ms. Johnson. So, and I have a copy of this for you, so if it passes. We've talked about camping in the park, or Bowie Park, or somewhere, either that, the out parcel. Commissioner Carroll talked about a splash pad. We continue to hear from our dog walkers. I do at least 3 times a week out at the park about a dog park. Archery ranges, paddle boats, farmer's market, the ADA trail, that I know Mr. Power, if I've misquoted you on the other thing, I know Mr. Power said that because he said it tonight. The Friends have talked to me about a new stage, a new pavilion someplace out there for stuff, more sidewalks, playgrounds in the neighborhoods, skateboard park, expansion of the nature center, horseback center, movement of the bike trails, expansion of the trail system, corporate partnering with Walmart, and then, of course, we have the management of our community garden. And those are the things that my notes say that we have at least talked about at one point in time. And I really would like to see us develop a document that says, when we start fiscal year 15, we think if we allocated $50,000, we could do X, Y, and Z. And then the next thing on the list in 16 would be, you know, A, B, C, and so forth and so on. And I know, Beverly, you or, I guess Ron's not here, maybe somebody can add where y'all are in terms of that. But I think this is an opportunity that we have this year that is it's time. And so I'd like to see us finalize these documents in some form that, not to be hard and fast, obviously any sort of plan you come up with has to be flexible depending upon what your situation is, but that we actually do put something in writing that can be available for the public to come in and say, what's your plan for Parks and Rec? Here, have a book.
Could you restate your motion?
Happy to. Park Committee is assigned the task of developing and preparing in final form for submission to the BOC a comprehensive 5 to 10 year plan for the improvement and expansion of our parks and recreation system to include, but not limited to, the following. What new services, facilities, or services should we provide, in what order? What would be the complete cost of construction, including land acquisition if needed? Where would the facility or service be located? What are the maintenance costs, staffing, security, additional or specialized equipment? Integration of the sidewalk system as it's being planned. How do we pay for this? A referendum for a tax increase, percentage of revenues, cash from surplus. How does this fit with the current county services? Are there other opportunities to partner with the county, and should we be moving to take over any or all of the county services?
Is there a second?
When did you want it back?
March 1st, before we start the budget process.
Second.
Discussion? As I returned email to everyone on the comment, I think it's a great idea to have specifics, and I appreciate that, and I think it's a great idea to have a timeline. I think that's definitely where we focus. Just bringing update is in 2012, the Park Board was tasked with rewriting the master plan for the park system. At that point, it was Bowie Park. Then the park system kind of broadened, which is fantastic, and then that was brought back from the Park Board, addressing to the commission to highlight and to specify what parcels are in the park system. That was done. The Park Board has been working diligently, monthly, for almost a year on the master plan for the park system. It has been turned in and vetted with the staff. Mr. Paisley, would you come forward? It's been vetted. The staff has presented a draft for Bowie Park that they have prepared that is ready to be vetted and presented to the Board of Commission to be able to be edited. What we thought we would do in the last couple months as we met the first Monday at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then we had the draft presented that we will be doing next month for Veterans Park, which is on 96 Highway, and also the History Village. Would you like to share on the things that the staff has been doing for this master plan?
Which, the whole system or just
Yeah.
Bowie Park? Because that's what we're tasked with.
You were doing the park, Bowie.
Yeah.
What you've done or what's been into it, just for information?
As far as what we've put into it, I mean,
The
like
things that it's encapsulate, yes,
coming
the
up with
appendix and stuff.
without it being in my hand, I'm just trying to go back from memory. Well, we put in the handicap trail from Joanne's outdoor classroom to the nature center, possibly an expansion of the nature center, pavilion. Pretty much everything that Ellen's touched on is in that master plan so far.
In our draft?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Now, the History Village, of course, it being a PUD, and a lot of this is just information for the public. It being a PUD, when it was approved, it was set as that was what it would be in the end. Has there anything added or taken away or anything on the History Village that, I mean, it's part of the park system, so anything that you'd like to address there?
Well, I think they're just about finished with the schoolhouse itself. We've added the sidewalks, handicap sidewalks, the parking space, parking lot out front of the schoolhouse. I know, I don't remember what the other little building that was just brought in was.
Health
The
clinic.
little medical. So, so they're just cleaning up the site and trying to get everything prepared for opening.
Okay, and did you receive the Veterans Memorial Park draft? Were you in that email this week?
No.
Okay, that was sent by our Secretary of the Park Board, and I'll forward it to the commission for their review as well, but that's the kind of things that are taking place. Again, I thoroughly appreciate the detail and the timeline, because I believe that's definitely needed. So, any other discussion? Thank you, Keith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Commissioner Bissell. Discuss and or take action on Codes Review Committee. Mr. Hubner?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring up a couple items with the commission about the Codes Review Committee. It's really housekeeping items I have. First, Mr. Tim Banger is serving, he was appointed as a citizen liaison on the Planning Commission. I don't think that's a conflict, and I don't, but, I just wanted to point that out to the board. That not to serve, then there would be a need to appoint someone else. Also, there's, this board was established in the minutes of the commission meeting. There were not terms established, and I would recommend that terms run concurrent with commissioners' terms, or the commissioners that are concurrent with the planning commissioners' terms, and between myself and Mr. Hall, that our term would be run with our time of employment in the city. Take action on that tonight, Mr. Campbell.
Yes, sir, because it's written to discuss and or take action.
Move to establish terms as, Frank has.
We have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a proper motion?
Discussion? In discussion, I will ask, does that make it 3 members of the Planning Commission? Yes or no? 3 members. Okay. And we have 1 member from the public.
That public member, we would need to establish that, I'm sorry, I failed to mention that. We need to establish a number of years that person from the public will serve.
Okay, the city manager and the director is the term of your employment. The planning commission is the term of their seat. And the only thing that does not have the terms is the public. Did you present something that he made a motion on?
What would be your recommendation, Mr. Arnold?
He said he approved what you said, so what did you say? 4 year, okay. So we currently have in compliance with 3 members of the planning commission being on this,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And how is that going to be corrected? What is your,
I'd recommend that we have the 3 members from the planning commission rather than another member from the public.
why would you recommend that?
Well, of course, the planning commission members are familiar with our codes pretty as much as any citizens are, so I would think that would be something they could have a lot of input in.
And they are a citizen.
I don't disagree there, just inquiring. And then also, that would not create a majority because the number,
Right.
okay. Was it made up, if I recall, we made up the committee of mixed people, so it wouldn't be one heavy or not on others, so would that not, only one citizen I don't think that would be the intent of the original makeup, of not having too many. Because we have the member of the chamber, and is that a term limit also?
Right,
For their,
yes. For his term as with the chamber.
They select that member.
that's an
Well,
appointed?
They select that member, yeah, that's right.
It's appointed and, it's nominated and then appointed,
Right.
okay? Who appoints them? The board?
When we created it, we created a spot from them. They send us whomever they want, just like the Park Commission. Dr. Rice serves on that as a member of the Historical Society. They decide who they're going to send to sit in that seat. So it doesn't have to be John Cherry. I'm sure they could put another board member in that place.
But it's not like the commission that then we appoint,
We accept whoever they tell us.
Correct.
okay? And then
It
the
just has to be a board member with a term limit.
the two board of commissioners are their term?
Yes, ma'am.
And who currently sits now on that?
Commissioner Sutton and Commissioner Carroll.
Okay. Well, in discussion, let's talk as the board. It was originally set up with a matrix. Is that matrix not important? Because if we have 3 of one and 1 of one, and it was set up with 2 of 2, my question is, if we had forethought that it was a good matrix to begin with. Any discussion?
Well, yes, ma'am. I just throw this out here. We didn't seem to have any difficulty with it when we allowed Commissioner Carroll, even though she was elected commissioner, to stay on the planning commission. As a citizen, instead of being a commissioner on the planning commission, she was a citizen on the planning commission. She retained a seat.
I believe the codes review is a different subject, and that's why I'm asking. We set up the matrix for a reason. If we're not sticking to that matrix,
I think when we set up the planning commission, we had the same thing in mind, and we didn't hold to that, so I don't see that it's a big deal that Mr. Mangrum serves in both places.
I'm not speaking about the gentleman, I'm speaking about the matrix, and I do believe the planning commission did change once that was kind of vetted through, that we felt that it was top-heavy, and we went back to what was originally the matrix. Correct?
Well, it did change after we had some pretty interesting discussion. Yes, ma'am.
So my only question is to the board, if we set up a matrix with 2 of the planning commission, and this has nothing to do with personal people, it's the matrix of how many people and of what sector, let's say, or what they come from. If we had 2 citizens and 2 from the planning commission, is the board saying the matrix needs to be changed? Because if we go forward, we don't have what we're approving on this codes review committee piece of paper in front of us that we're voting on. Currently, what is on the committee is not what we're voting on, we want on the committee. Should we not address that?
May I interrupt, please?
Sure, thank you.
Who are the planning commission members that are on?
I'm not real sure. There's 2 in the matrix of the codes review.
Is Ms. Anderson,
Beata and Mangrum.
I was,
And Lisa.
my reason was there whether or not Mr. Behan was one of those. He's no longer on the planning commission, so that was my reasoning for that.
Again, the names and the people, it's just a position, is not the point. I believe we're changing the matrix by moving forward of what we originally said the codes review would be, and that's my only point of, does that not matter?
I really don't think it matters because no matter what, the person is a citizen anyway. And I guess if we wanted to, we could go through the process of completely re-advertising again, and then maybe all 3 of those planning commission people would have to reapply to see which 2 were going to get it if we weren't going to do that. But to me, they're all citizens anyway in the first place, so they're already seated. I don't know why we wouldn't just move forward.
Well, it's kind of like when you say someone can go to the park board, that's from the planning commission. If they're not on the planning commission anymore, they are no longer on the park board. It begins to be a precedent of what was said, who needed to be in that seat, needed to be who was said. And that's not what is on it now.
Well, then the simple thing to do would be pick one of the three planning commissioners, remove planning commission from their title and say they're a citizen member.
But I believe that goes against the spirit of the matrix of having two from the planning commission instead of 3 or 4 or whatever
That's
number.
what I'm saying. We'll take those three people and we'll remove planning commission member from one of those three.
Move them
Then-
off the planning commission?
No, we'll move
I don't
it,
think
we'll
that's
move it off the
answer.
title on this, and we'll have it as right where it says, this hall person, it says citizen, and we can change the next one to just citizen.
But that doesn't change that we have 3 sitting planning commission members on the codes review, which is not what we set up as the matrix. We set up to have 2 authority from the planning commission on this codes review. I see it as just a schematic of the matrix that's being changed without any addressment. That's not what the codes review was set up for.
Doesn't the planning commission decide who will represent them on that?
And they were told to represent 2.
Then why are we discussing this? Why don't we let the planning commission decide which 2 they want?
Very good point. I'll amend the motion that will defer this until Mr. Hubner can speak with the planning commission about one of those that would like to withdraw from the codes, and then allow us to advertise for a citizen seat. That's my motion.
Move to approve.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Discussion? City manager? I'm sorry. FG.
Chief Harris?
Does the agenda addition have to be a majority board for addition? Does the vote have to be majority?
You have to have it at least 3/4.
Majority or,
No, it would have to be, you have an ordinance that says, on the Board of Commissioners, that you must have a majority, you have to have at least 3 for it.
I wanted to confirm that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Chief Harris, you have a request, discuss and/or take action?
Yes.
On a used 15-passenger van?
I would like to get a used, I can get a new through the state surplus, but I'm looking for used. So I'd like to take bids on a used 15-passenger van. Our van that we've had for probably over 10 years is falling apart. It's got 150,000 miles on it, and it's actually not big enough. Tomorrow, we have court, and I have got to send 3 vehicles to the jail to pick up prisoners because our van is not big enough. And this will, if we bid this out, and it will be purchased through the drug fund.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? What is the balance of the drug fund, please?
Oh, I do not know right offhand.
Mr. Darty? Ms. Brooks?
I do know that $40,000 have come in the last month and a half through drug vehicle sales. I'm thinking that would put it,
Over 100.
yeah, it's definitely over 100,000. I'd say probably in the $125,000 range.
Thank you.
Around 20,000. Yes, sir.
Other discussion?
If I may, he's only asking for advertisement for bids, and when those bids come back, he would have had time to bring you the exact amount that's in the drug fund.
Thank you. Is there consideration for the van that is sitting at Bowie Park to be used?
It's not big enough also. It's not a 15.
It's an 8-passenger?
Yeah, what we've got is a 8-passenger, but time you put the screens in them where you, to separate, what we're wanting to do is separate male and female. Right now, I can only transport either male or female in that van, so I have to send extra patrol cars down to get the other gender. But if we get a 15 or 16 passenger van, I can separate them with a cage and wouldn't have to send but one vehicle.
So are you currently using the van that's sitting at the Nature Center?
The one that's marked Police Department, my van is, yes, it's not at the Nature Park, but it's at Public Works.
Mr. Paisley? It's a different one?
Yes, I have a
Okay,
van, it's just, Randy's trying to keep it going.
okay.
And it's hard for him to keep it going, it's got a short in it, and but we've had it for over 10 years, 10 or 12 years.
According to my records, we have over $130,000.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I add one other thing? It's totally off the subject of the cost, but if we're operating a van to take people to court, they have no choice but to go. And if we're operating a van that we know or have reason to believe may be substandard, we better make a big consideration for the safety factor on this thing, because if something happens and we had reason to believe or know that this van that we have may not be up to tip-top condition. Now, I know accidents happen and this kind of stuff, but the first thing you're going to be faced with is what kind of condition was this thing in? Would be anyway, but you want to be able to say, yes, this was totally roadworthy, or we got a problem.
How many passengers is the van you're currently driving?
We can get 6, and it's crowded. But they don't get up in the front. You take away the 2 seats, the driver and the passenger, because there's a screen in between, so they cannot get to the officer driving.
Could you use the van instead of, could you use the used van and another van? Do you have to get that larger one, I guess is what I'm asking, if we already have one?
Well, this one is going down, and it's a safety issue. It's, like I said, Randy's trying to keep it going, and it's hard keeping it going. It's got a short, and I would not like to have an accident like we had on the interstate years ago, where the transport van caught on fire and burned up a bunch of prisoners.
Absolutely. My question with that is to have that van utilized and another smaller van instead of purchasing a large van.
Well, it's really not a large van. It's just a 15-passenger van, and I would sell this one
Okay.
and put that money back into the drug fund.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion, City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners. Since we're on the drug fund money, I will report on the recent sales of the police cars that were turned in that we replaced with new one. Mark Sutton has done a great job with the bid process on those. Randy's done a great job with getting the other ones ready with all the equipment off and everything. We've actually, in the sale of those, we've received $40,219.42. Also in that bid, we have sold a Cub Cadet tractor that the engine was blowed up on, pickup truck that was no longer of use to us, and a lawnmower that was no longer of use to us. We received $8,462 that will go back into the general fund.
Okay. Any other items for discussion this evening? Oh, you're still talking.
I'm not through, we've got a ways to go yet.
Okay.
Okay. We have some items that y'all asked for at last meeting. The breakdown of the $35,000 on professional service line item. That was the $9,000 for the auditor and the $27,000 for the city attorney fees. The next item was the grant anticipation note. He wanted to know what the interest rate would be and how the funds would be paid back. The interest rate would be 3.25%. The funds can be paid back as we collect back from the grant itself. There's no specific payment schedule that we have to go through. Also, the portion of that grant that we would have to fund, the length of time that we would have to wait on that, we feel that there would be ample money in the street aid fund that could take care of that. One of the reasons for that is we're no longer paying salaries out of the street aid fund. We're trying to keep that straight with repairs and repaving of our streets. By October 9th, you're wanting, the fiscal policy and stabilization plan, and we are working toward that. Commissioner Carroll had asked for what the auditors had asked us to perform last year, one of those being setting up the finance committee. One of those was to hire the finance clerk that we have now, Susan Fox. And the other was on internal control, which I went over with their lead auditor today, and we are in compliance with everything that they're asking for on internal controls. I'm going to let Frank Humber explain where we're at on our projects. He's got an update on that, but we was unable to check Kevin Hosinger's email address that had been dissolved, so we didn't, but we got an update from past projects that we've gone through. And Commissioner Sutton has asked for a verification on the tree bank funds on whether we can use that for hardscapes. I don't know whether that means landscapes or hardscapes, but basically we have checked with the city attorney, and from our viewpoint, or his viewpoint, that we cannot use it for a fence. So that's where we stand on that.
That was the question he asked about fences, wasn't it? Or gravel, what was it?
The definition of what it can be used for is for landscaping, beautification, and my question to them was, could it not be used for fencing?
Fencing, I thought that was okay.
I still have a question about that, because I consider that part of landscaping and beautification.
And is that is totally amendable, is it not? That is totally amendable, is it not?
I don't know if was that the mandate from the state?
I don't think so.
No, we created.
If you created it, you can amend it until such time that you do.
We established the tree board, established the tree fund, and created the ordinance.
Okay, you can, yeah, you're correct, because I remember drawing the ordinance. I just want to make sure it wasn't something that we've been dealing with state stuff, and those are usually edicts. But until such time as you do, I wouldn't say you couldn't ever use it for some fencing. If you had a tree that was in an area where it was getting broken off all the time by things running over it, I think you could use it to put a fence around that particular tree. But if you're doing it as a general thing, going up beside the sidewalk or just along a line as a line fence, I don't think you could. Certainly you can amend your ordinance and put in there that you can use it for, just mention fencing specifically. But until such time as you do, I couldn't defend that if somebody challenged it. Okay. Individual cases, maybe, because if it was in an area of high vulnerability, you could fence it off, and I know I could defend that. But if it was just a long fence, because you'd like to keep people away from it, but they're not doing any damage to it, I don't think I could. But if you want to change it, all we've got to do is get out the ordinance and add fencing to it.
City Manager, could you put that on the next agenda for the next meeting, please, discuss or take action on the ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item was regarding whether the CFO could be the chairperson of the Finance Review Committee, and we've determined that he should not be, and we will select a new chairperson at the next meeting on that. This is one, I think, Larry, that you possibly need to check is the possible results of revenue not realized. You want to look at that? Item number 9. While he's looking at that, I do request permission to go forward with the GAN loan to hopefully go ahead and get the resurfacing grant initiated,
What is the amount of that grant?
$640,000.
You're asking to move forward on a loan for $607,000?
To go forward with the GAN to, what has to happen is we have to apply for the GAN, and we have to have a resolution drawn up by the city attorney. And so in order to move forward with the resurfacing grant, that's what I would like to move forward with that grant and get permission to go forward with the GAN loan and not initiate the loan until we actually have to pay for it. And that way we save the interest until we need to do so.
Anything else?
Let Larry speak to this particular one.
Mr. Cantrell?
Yes, ma'am. Number 9 was to look at the possibility of delaying the pay of the Board of Commissioners or Planning Commission. I apologize to the board, I did not have this. I could have gotten it. I'm sure it was run here. I would like to ask the board to allow me to bring you the answer to that question at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
I'll get a copy of this and take it with me, so I'll be sure and have it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? City Manager?
Like to see whether y'all give me permission to move forward with the resurfacing grant.
Are you asking for a motion? It's not on the agenda.
Well, this is what I was asked to bring back was the,
Larry, it doesn't have to be a motion, it just be a direction, all right?
You won't need to vote on that. You can just direct him to either go ahead or not go ahead, because there will be no action taken to commit the city to anything that comes back to the board. It's merely a thing of saying, employee, go do this.
Move forward.
I don't think it's a good idea, so I'm not going to give you a move forward. The board is able to speak for themselves.
thank you, ma'am.
My direction would be to move forward with the project.
I said the same.
Exactly sure all what you want. You wanting us to allow you to go ahead and proceed on loan, or tell you one more time for me.
Okay, what it boils down to, if we go forward with the resurfacing grant, we have to pay for this, the bills as they come in up front. We don't have the money in the reserves to do so. In order to do so, to get this grant that's been worked on now for over 3 years, the total amount is $640,000. Our portion would be $128,000. That could be paid out of the Street Aid Fund later in the year. The loan would be initiated as we would need the money, not the whole $640,000 at one time. They reimburse us back as we do the billing. In other words, if we have $100,000 on a bill that we have to pay, we could go to the bank at that time, receive the $100,000 to pay that portion of the invoice. And as soon as we collect it back from the state, then we could pay that back off. So therefore, cutting your interest rate down. The thing that we have been told by a recent person that next year, if we have to wait till then to have this work done, that the prices is going to go up. So the amount that we would pay in the interest would be the savings that we would save in next year's prices of asphalt and labor and this type of thing. So
We know, thank you for the explanation. I can ask my question now.
Yeah.
It's not, we sound
This is federal money that they're managing.
So, what assurance, how do we have this great fear that we put out $640,000 to do these projects, and they're legitimate projects, that's not, but then the federal government decides that Congress in their infinite wisdom decides we're not gonna fund that Department of Transportation bill, and we're on the hook for, approximately $20,000 a year interest until they do decide to fund it, if they ever do. I have a high level of comfort with that.
I think the state already has the funds.
Then why would we need to pay it up front and then have them pay us back?
I believe that is because, they don't think every city is going to come up there and be begging for money. If they were just gonna give everything away for free and didn't make some accountability to the cities, then
And that would make sense to me too, except that if we get a bill for $100,000,
we're gonna turn it into them, they're gonna pay it.
No, correction. It's a reimbursable grant, so we'll pay the bill. Then we bill the state, then we're reimbursed.
That is correct.
but we've done that, and the state hasn't paid us. Am I not correct in that?
There is one reimbursement that Mr. Frank could give an update on that has not been paid, correct?
He's got some recent information that he got from Mayor in Addington yesterday, and he
Just
explained that right.
one, to answer a question from me, I think it will clear up a little bit for Commissioner Self. The part of this grant process is where we get the loan for the entire amount, which is not due and payable until
We collected.
we collect it from the federal government. And
That part, I'm with you, Commissioner Sutton, except that the interest, once they give us the money, the interest clock is running.
Correct, and we pay back the bank when we get it from the state, is clarifying your question that was not how you
Unless we
was
have other
answered.
funds available.
unless we have other funds to pay, which is through the street aid fund.
Right, but I can see us having, based upon our projections, I can see us having our part. It's the other $400 and something thousand that I'm worried about that we would be on the hook for with the interest running out there, because we're on somebody else's reimbursement timeframe. Maybe, Mr. Humber, you can help me with that.
Commissioner, let me explain that the federal portion is coming from the Federal Highway Administration. Before they issue us, which we expect most any day, a notice to proceed with construction, then the Federal Highway Administration obligates the fund. It's been explained to me that once it's obligated, that it's in the bank. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
It won't, in other words, that money is
It's held in reserve.
It's earmarked, it's
It's
there.
earmarked, it's done, can't be rescinded by, congressional action or something like that. It's been, it's
already been
it's
paid
spent as far as they look at it. If you feel any better about that, I feel confident.
Even though I have a long-term relationship with them, I don't trust the federal government as far as that. But, and that's probably where some of my paranoia jumps up from. But it just, the interest, because we're on somebody else's timetable, I don't mind paying interest when I'm the one making the decisions about how long, I'm gonna take to pay something. But when we're waiting on somebody to reimburse us, and they decide, well, we'll just hold on to it for another interest period before we let it go, then that's gonna cost us money, and that bothers me a little bit. But what is, those items that, before you got here, that Mr. Bledsoe and I worked on to submit,
That was Safe Routes to School.
was
A
that? was that
different conversation,
that
a
was
different grant.
one,
Yes, sir.
different grant? Okay.
That one's 100%.
But we never got that money, right?
That is the reimbursement he's waiting on.
Let me explain the reimbursements that we have pending. They're for engineering services. Basically the reason for their delay in that is that they want us to proceed with construction. They want us to proceed, in other words, then they feel that it's 100%, we're going to carry out the grant.
That's exactly why they're holding it.
And that's why they're holding it. Otherwise, if we stopped with this, either one of these grants, then we haven't gotten reimbursement, we'd just be out that money.
Yeah.
That's where we are on that.
Well, I can support us moving forward if we will have another chance to discuss it before we actually borrow the money, which I understand we'll have to have a resolution to do that. That you basically get it all set up, Mr. Hall, and then you'll come back to us for a resolution to actually borrow the money.
Yes, sir.
And by that time, maybe we will have, did you say that Highway Administration, Mr. Umber?
Federal Highway Administration.
That maybe we'll have that letter of commitment or that further process, I would feel better about that. So I appreciate you gentlemen's time and mayor's time in answering my questions.
And I feel sure that we won't have to borrow $640,000 at one time. So I think we got a $100,000 bill that can pay for that and put it into reimbursement. So, this Mr. Addington that's helped us here in the last few days is very good at telling us the process to go through, so.
Okay. Again, thank y'all for answering my questions, Mayor.
Thank you.
Information.
Mr. Hubner? Kind of stole some of your thunder, but please share with us what's been going on. Exciting things in your department this week.
Okay. Well, I will cover that part first. On our projects, we'll have 3 grants. If you look at the sheet that I put out for y'all at your seat, the 3 projects that I went over with Mr. Addington was
Excuse me, could we have this on the overhead for the public's review? Would that be okay? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
No problem. The 3 projects that I discussed with him was our resurfacing grant, which is $640,000 total project cost. Also, the Safe Routes to School, which is $176,000 for the actual sidewalk construction. There'll also be an educational, in addition to that, there'll be educational money for the schools. And we also talked about our roadscapes grant, which is approximately $100,000. Basically, the status on the Safe
Excuse me,
Routes.
what was that I don't have that on my sheet. What'd you say?
It's in the top part of the,
Okay,
see, roadscape.
that was a city.
Yes, it is, but we probably should have put it under federal funded projects or state funded projects. I probably should have put it in the other group.
It's a 80/20?
It's 80/20, yes. So, anyway, the first one on Safe Routes to School, what we're doing is Monday we're meeting with our consultant from Kimley Horn. And we're going to see, he's bringing us the final plans, final plans for approval. Also his cost estimates. Okay, at that time, we can evaluate if we're going to go with the entire program that we have now, the whole length of the sidewalk, or if we need to amend the scope of it because of the cost estimates. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
And underneath your project, you have a letter.
Yes, ma'am.
See that?
Yes, ma'am.
That was approving the change.
That was approving the extension that we asked for to complete this grant, which we now
September.
have until December of 15 to complete it.
For Safe Routes.
Right, Safe Routes. So what we're anticipating is that the next step will be the acquisition of property. And then it'll be ready to go out for bid, and probably be ready for construction probably early spring. The resurfacing grant, as Mr. Hall has already explained, is something we're trying to accomplish this year. We feel like it'd be most cost-effective if we can get it in this season, this paving season, which ends in the end of November. So what we want to do is, as soon as we get that notice to proceed for construction, then we're going out to bid, and we'll get our, bids in, and we want to have, if at all possible, we want to be able to award it to the low bidder, and they have time to get it done this year, because we do feel like, and we've been advised by some people who know, including Mr. Addington, that next year the prices are going to go up. So it would be to our advantage, but we feel, to get that done in this season of paving.
And who's the engineer doing the resurfacing drawings?
That's Griggs and Maloney.
And have those are already
Yes, ma'am.
finished and paid for?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And is that a 75-25 grant match?
For the repaving?
Resurfacing, yeah.
No.
It's a what?
It's 80/20.
80/20?
That's a mistake I made. It's
Okay,
it's
and
effort.
which is the multimodal. Let me give some clarity to the public. The Safe Routes to School is a sidewalk on Cumberland Drive, the middle school. Active Transportation is a multimodal, which is a sidewalk down O Franklin and Cumberland. And the resurfacing is Cox Pike and Cumberland Drive. Some of those streets got confused. So just for the public, that's what we're discussing in these MPO surface and MPO active. That's the roads that they go to.
I'd
Mr. Hall?
like to explain on the Old Cox Pike, it actually starts just past Cox Run for the repaving down to Pinecrest. That is, there had been repaving up to that point. The problem all the way down is the striping. I don't know how we can work it in, but the striping from 100 all the way down to our city limits should be done, because it is very difficult on a dark night, or especially a rainy night. You about can't see where you're even at down through there, because the striping is so bad. So it's really a safety factor, but that's something that we'll address, provided this grant goes forward. But it is very
Is
bad.
that part of the grant, is striping from Cox Run to 100 Highway?
No, ma'am. From Cox Run back to 100, that is not part of the grant.
So that would be a cost we would have to do for that striping you're
But
discussing?
It'd be an estimate that I would try to get and see where we.
So it's not part of the grant?
No, ma'am. The striping is not, but it is, the striping will be part of the grant from Cox Run.
Cox Run to Pinecrest.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Hubner?
Okay, I think you, are there any questions about what we've put together here? What we want to do is kind of give you an update and keep this current as these projects proceed, so you can have a pretty good idea of where we are on these projects.
Just to comment, if we're gonna modify the tree fund that we have to be able to use it for, would not we be able to modify it to pay our 20% of the roadscape?
Yes, sir, it could be.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Cantrell? He's left, okay.
I'm sorry. Commissioner LaSalle, the way the tree fund is written now, it can cover our 20% on
On
the
the roadscapes already?
Yes, it can, because that's landscaping.
City property landscaping.
So this is actually state property, but I think that's still part of the intent of that tree fund.
We'd probably be better off to modify it to where we're
That's right.
sure of what we're
That's
doing.
the portion you need to modify, city property, public property.
Mr. Cantrell? I have a question, sir. Y'all gotta quit roaming, we're having a meeting. I have a quick question. Several months ago, if not a year ago, we voted as a board to discontinue and to reject the roadscape. Is it something that we can discuss or continue going forward, or do we have to address that specific action? Doesn't change, I'd love the idea and want it to see it happen, always have, but I just wanted to ask for clarity on legal.
If you rejected it, and was that conveyed to the state? What's their stance now on
My
that?
knowledge, it wasn't conveyed.
We had
to
a
the
letter
state.
that was sent, whether it was officially sent, whether it was officially received, that would have to be researched on the state's
Okay,
end.
the first
But
thing.
we're
you
not
got-
getting any notification that we're expiring or not in
Well,
compliance.
in all likelihood, if you sent the letter rescinding it, they would not be sending anything else. First thing you'd have to find out is, and I apologize, I was mentioning something to Mr. Larry out there, but the first thing you'd have to do is find out what our status is with the state. The second thing you would have to do, if you were thinking about reviving it, is go back to the minutes and get that particular date and meeting that it was rescinded, and then, of course, you can, if the state hasn't dropped it or will let you reinstate it, then you'd have to rescind the action rescinding it and reinstate it.
I see.
But it could be done unless the state, if they have already gotten, if they actually received the rescission notice, and if they appropriated that money to somebody else, then they're not going to touch it.
We'd have to apply
You'd have to
again for
apply
a
again.
grant in that
Oh, yeah.
motion, okay.
You would
But
not-
we would have to address and rescind the vote.
Yes, ma'am, but otherwise
Okay.
you'd be in violation of your own action. And of
That's
course,
what
you
I
have-
was
You have the
trying
power
to
to
catch.
rescind it. Again, I apologize for not being here.
That's okay, thank you. Wanted to catch that before we got too far and made sure that we had ability to move forward, and if we do, I'd say run fast.
I've been working with the state's consultant on that now for 2 months, so. And the last thing I saw in the file.
Is that Ms. Benedict?
No, I mean, not with, no, actually, I've been working with a company that the state has hired to do the administration of this. And so that's who I've been working with, because he's been trying to keep us going and get everything in line. The last thing I have in the file was an extension that the city had asked for through March of 15. So that's the last thing, which I took that to mean, I didn't know that the city had done anything to rescind it. But
Okay.
I don't think the state has been notified, otherwise if their consultant wouldn't still be.
Let's just get that clear so we know if we are, it is
We can clear
added to
that
our
up.
list or not, but I do appreciate if you've been working on that we've got something stirring. Who's paying for the consultant that's hired?
The state.
Great, okay?
Mayor, if I could, I remember us talking about it, but I also remember Mr. Lorne making a pretty good case about the only step that was taken was the hiring of these consultants, and that we weren't paying for that. And so,
Lotus and Associates?
yes, ma'am. So I don't believe that we ever got to taking a final vote to get out of it because of that. I think we were heading that way because of the $20,000, but Mr. Lavorne made the case that we had no investment at this particular time. The state was paying these consultants, and that it wouldn't hurt for us to continue on to see what was coming out of that, and I think we deferred it. But I haven't checked the minutes. If your
We'll
notes
allow
say
him to
something
check. The only recollection is I asked how much was invested, and the statement from the commission was it didn't matter. And we voted, and there was 3 votes. So I would like to see the actual minutes, because that's what I recall. And me saying, don't we care how much we've already spent before we reject it, and the
That was
vote went through.
That was the Greenway, not the road.
That was the other subject. So if you'll verify, then we'll clear this up.
No,
That's correct.
That was the Greenway, and as I recall that, you wanted us to wait on the vote till we knew exactly how much we had spent on the engineers, and we did vote 3-2 to go ahead and reject the Greenway bids.
And we
But
had like 27,000 invested.
That part I
Yeah.
don't know, but I don't recall, but I
So
do.
it's not clear, Mr. Hubner, sorry.
I do think that was the Greenway, not the Roadscapes.
Okay, anything else, sir? Thank you.
Would y'all like for me to do the rest of my report,
Yes, sir.
department report? Okay, under the part of the codes portion, we issued 6 building permits at a total value of $404,000, 31 electrical, 3 complaints, 18 service letters, 39 inspections, 2 COs, 1 plans review, 5 violations, and 1 failure to comply. I wanted to report under the subject of marketing, some of the things that Mr. Hall and I have done in the last month that we're very encouraged by. We had a visit from Laura Hudson with Retail Strategies in Birmingham, and she came and visited us because her company helps cities to identify a strategy for recruiting retail businesses. She approached us for one reason was because of the potential that we have. She basically identifies cities that they go to and offer to help. They don't offer to help people without potential. Also, Mr. Hall and I have talked with Andy Rodenstrike, an attorney in Birmingham that represents cell tower companies, about a possible cell tower to be located on city property. That's being investigated. Right now, he's advised me, and I've contacted one company for them to see where we are. We're trying to see what interest there is in that. Originally, we thought AT&T was interested, but they are no longer pursuing interest in it. Okay, next, Mr. Hall and I met with Emily Schneller with the Shopping Center Group in Nashville. She represents a lot of retail clients. We discussed with her and looked at pretty closely a new strip center in the vicinity of Walmart, a strip center near the middle and high schools, potential businesses that would occupy vacant buildings. She indicated that she felt like her company would be able to put something together either along Highway 100 or at the I-40 interchange. So that's what I wanted to report.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Hall?
I still have a couple of things. One thing, Lieutenant Russell will be giving a report in a little while when it comes to their phase of the instructions on the maintenance program that we have on our fleet. He's got a good report on that. Would like to say on the Joanne's classroom, we are waiting on the survey from Randy Chapelain to see what we go forward there with, and after that, then we will talk to the CFO about the engineering process, and then we'll get prices on whether we can stay within that $25,000 that y'all have approved. But y'all will have to, Tom can speak to this, but I believe it'll have to be appropriated before we can spend it. Am I right on that, Tom? So that will have to come back for y'all once we get that. And that is one of the recommendations from the Finance Committee is for us to go forward with the Joanne's classroom. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not yet you, Mr. Cantrell. Other staff? About to call on you.
Thank you, Mayor. I owe you for June and July. We had 77 and 57 calls respectively in those 2 months. Also, I would like to, I know the guys are watching at the station, they always do, compliment the fire department and the police department both. There is no easy calls out there, but today we had a particularly tough one. I won't leave out the details, but I want to thank both departments for an outstanding job, as they always do. The county fair is in its 10th year, and the county fair donated space to us for a fire truck and a booth. And the 9 fire departments across Williamson County got together. We're at the booth every day and every hour that it's open. If you come down and see the fair, we're right on the arena floor. And we've got a bunch of handouts, and you get to touch a truck, and it's interesting. We've had a ton of response. And also, we're recruiting volunteers at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In our police report, we took 629 calls, last month, we had 23 accidents and 5 with injuries. And my drug unit has been working their butt off. In the last month, they've made over 30 drug arrests. It's here, and we're trying to stay on top of it, but just a lot of drugs around, so I'm pleased with what they're doing. I just hate that it's all here. So, is there any questions? Because I want to turn it over to Lieutenant Russell on our maintenance, to tell you a little bit about our maintenance program on all our vehicles and stuff.
Thank you.
Lieutenant?
Members of the Board of Commission, thank you for the opportunity to come before you. And I don't know if we've done this as a department yet, to say publicly thank you for the 12 new vehicles that we've got in service. It was some concern as a safety director when we were operating patrol vehicles that were on the other side of 100,000 miles. Right now, I stand before you and tell you that we only have one vehicle that's out there actively in service and patrol function, plus 100,000. And it will be retired when a new vehicle comes online that's being worked on. Each member of the city, I'll talk about the police department more in detail, but each member of the city that drives a vehicle has a responsibility for preventive maintenance. That's true in the police department, the fire department, the streets department, the parks department. And each person that has any experience with that vehicle that needs maintenance has the responsibility to fill out a standard form that Commissioner Purcell helped put together, former community service director helped put together, and Randy and Assistant Chief Sutton have kind of tweaked. And that form then is required for service, and it is done on routine services such as oil changes, tires, any other functioning with the vehicle. It kind of sneaks up on you the number of vehicles that we have on the street that are owned by the city of Fairview. Not counting the large fire trucks, we own 50 that Randy Beck has a responsibility of doing service on. And as the chief pointed out earlier, he has done a tremendous job keeping our fleet up and running. What we do when we find that we have a piece of equipment that is under warranty, other than just the routine maintenance, we get Randy to do an assessment on it. If it's greater than his skill set, we've got that we ask for some help on. If it's greater than something they can function with, then we take that vehicle to the dealership, be it Ford, be it Chrysler, be it Chevrolet, for some help on that. Randy keeps a form that's been requested in his file on all the vehicles for service. I keep a redundant file here at the police department just to make sure that we're on the same track. And I can tell you that we've had some great service since we've got the new fleet online. Our patrol officers, and Chief has talked about the success that's gone on with patrol officers and with drug units. Average out there every day, about 74, just a shade over miles of routine patrol. So you can see it doesn't take long to get some mileage out there. But out of that work, if you were going to be here tomorrow, you'd see this courtroom is going to fill up. Out of that work, we have made numerous arrests, and not only in drugs, but in traffic potential problems. We're averaging 5 to 6 cases a week of drivers driving with a revoked or suspended license. And you can just bet your hat that they're probably not driving with insurance at the same time, and puts all of us in a jeopardy situation. So what I'd like to just leave you with is, one, thanks for getting our fleet in the situation that it's in. I think our officers are taking great pride representing the city as they patrol in those vehicles. And two, we've had just some great cooperative effort from all the city services to make this thing happen. Keith Paisley's staff jumped in and helped us get these vehicles that we're putting up for auction in a shape to put them out there, and assisted the buyers. Brandy did just tremendous work working with Assistant Chief Sutton to do all the paperwork when this thing went out for bid. And it's been a great success and a great cooperative effort on their part that has made all this possible. So if you've got some questions about anything I've gone through quickly, I know the hour's getting late and you're probably ready to go, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Other discussion this evening? Mr. Canchero.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep mine short because I know the hour's getting late. The first thing that I have to say is just a suggestion. It's easy to volunteer somebody else some work, but so that the board will have all the information when they come to the next meeting, I would suggest that Ms. Brenda get the minutes relative to those two grants and put them in the packet that you'll get before the board meeting. As like I said, that's a suggestion. You can overrule them if you want to. I'm used to getting overruled in court. That wouldn't be the first time.
Minutes from the two grants for what purpose?
Yeah, so that you'll have the information before the next board meeting, rather than bring them to the board meeting. Just put them in the packet that goes out before the next board meeting. So
For what agenda item?
no, so that you, if it's necessary, if Mr. Humber finds out that.
Speaking of the roadscapes, the one
Yes,
we were
ma'am.
discussing for him to find out?
Right.
And what was the second one?
Well, I think one of them was the two that we discussed, Greenway.
I think we're clear on that one.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just the other one, I think it'd be good for everybody to have those so they'll be up to date when the meeting comes, rather than maybe get them that night. Because if it was never a vote taken on it, then that would keep Mr. Humber from having
Correct.
to do his thing with the state, because obviously if it wasn't a vote taken on it, then it was never rescinded. The second thing that I have, and I assure the board, relation to the wages for the board and the planning commission, that was on there, and like I said, I apologize for not having that ready tonight. I just didn't see it after I left here. I will get that to Miss Brandy no later than next Tuesday afternoon. I like to send those things to her so she's got a copy for her files. I'll send a copy to Mr. Hall, and then she can email it to the board members so that you'll know where you stand on delaying possible payment of the planning commission and the board of commissioners. That would be your call, but I'll get the information to you. I'll get it to her no later than Tuesday.
At your number 9 thing, you said you'd check on
Yes,
ours.
ma'am.
Okay,
And I
good.
apologize for not having it tonight, but I'll get it to her by Tuesday, and you'll have it long before the next board meeting.
Okay, great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. Commissioners, communication, Commissioner Sutton?
I just want to tell everybody I appreciate everything they've done with the city moving forward. We've got a lot going on right now. Tom, I just want to ask you, what has come in so far with tax revenue as far as what we budgeted? And how's it looking? Over, under?
I have rough numbers in.
That's fine.
Well, I did talk to TML and got the liability insurance, put into quarters instead of that lump sum,
Great.
early on. So that, we're looking at, right now, roughly, on expenses, roughly 90,000, under what we projected, and we're looking at revenue roughly 9,000 over what we projected. But like I said, that's rough. I've got it.
That's as of June 30th
Uh,
or as of May 31st?
that should be July's numbers.
As of July 31st?
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as tax revenue, sales tax revenue,
Sales tax, it's broken down in 2 areas. From the county, we were plus $284, and from the state shared portion of that, $1,224 less than what we projected. But it looks like our sales tax number's firm. It's right at $138,000 for those two combined, the local sales tax.
thank you.
The numbers you just gave us was for the first budget month of this fiscal year.
Correct.
And you said 90,000.
You have to keep in mind that that is,
We came in 90,000 under what we thought we might have to spend, and we were 9,000 over in.
correct,
in revenue.
but we had in the budget that, paying the liability insurance all one lump sum, and we have paid zero out of that so far. So that expense is gonna be paid out quarterly throughout this year, where initially I thought we were gonna lump sum it all at the very beginning.
Okay.
When's our first payment of that?
I'm sorry. The liability was gonna be right around 90,000, I believe.
90,000.
So that's about our difference.
So we finished the first month 9,000 to the good with
On
rough
revenue.
numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Sutton, are you complete?
Yes, I am. I just want to thank, we had a good turnout at polls today for the city election. The totals that I got was 1,109 people voted today in an early election. So thank everybody for getting out, putting out the effort and going and voting.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
First off, I would like to announce, I didn't have this earlier, but the Fairview High School Booster Club will be having a barbecue fundraiser dinner on August the 16th. And Ricky Jones